Welcome back to Viet Film Fest. You have just seen The Fairest Trees Are Grown in Solid Ground. We certainly hope you enjoyed that short film set. I am joined today by two of the filmmakers for two of the films that you have just seen, and I would like them to introduce themselves now. So if we could please start with Leo.
Hey guys, my name is Leo K. Angelos. I made The Jump, Gunyai. I hope you guys liked it.
And hi, everybody. My name is Nguyễn Lương Hằng, and I made Lên Pica trên mái nhà, or Rooftop Lên Pica in English. Hope you all enjoyed the show. And yeah, excited for this.
All right, thank you both. We're just going to get started with the very first question here. Essentially, what inspired you to make your films?
Inspirations. What inspired me to make my film? Contrary to my name, I was actually born and raised in Vietnam. But I ran away when I was 17, and I spent the last 20 years in America, and that's why I changed my name legally. But my Vietnamese name is Lê Ngọc Phương, so feel free to refer to me as that. What inspires me is that I finally last year decided to look back, accept my past as a part of who I am, and so I wanted to reconnect with my origin story, so to speak. And everything that happened in this short film actually happened to me in real life in one way or another. I just restructured certain things to make it more cinematic. So that was my inspiration to finally go and make this story.
So for me, it's similar to Leo's film in a way that my film is also sort of autobiographical. So there are a couple common threads here. Films about childhood and childhood experience and the relationship between the child and their parents. So I did grow up in a household where we rent out vacant rooms to outside people, and I grew up with those tenants always like being around and interfering with our space in some way, but they eventually became like an extended part of our family, and I grew up with them and made friends with them and became almost like a family with them, and learned a lot from them about life and such matters. And a lot of them were like women from the countryside who moved to the city and do all kinds of like odd jobs for a living. So in the film, it's like in a nutshell, it's the relationship between this little girl and this lady who lives in her house as a tenant, right? I did have a lady friend like that, and was very close with her, and also like encounter a book that features the work of Tamara de Lempica. That most of her art are about female nudes and how explore how the woman body are portrayed in art. So all of those like influences kind of like came together in a very long process, but that's another question.
All right, thank you both. Another group question now. For all the films in this set, it felt like to some extent as if all of the films were pieces of catharsis or attempts to find emotional closure in some way. What sort of emotions or thoughts were you looking to release in your works?
Well, I was able to film in my actual grandmother's house. This is where I grew up as a child. So that was a really special experience. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed away several years ago when I was stuck in the US because I was working on my naturalization. So I couldn't go back to Vietnam to say goodbye to her. And I think the movie is a way for me to properly say goodbye to my grandmother. It's also a way for me to tell my father to believe in what I'm doing. I'm sure you guys all got that from seeing the movie, but for him to believe in my story, to believe in what I'm doing right now.
Right. Yeah, emotional closure. I think that's an interesting theme and topic and phrase, because sometimes like I find in life finding emotional closure sometimes means that you have to deal with the fact that you don't actually have like that closure in reality, and you have to kind of like process that and make up your own like answer to that. In the film, like you can see the woman like comes into the girl's life and then she goes away like mysteriously. We never know like what exactly happened, whether the mom like kicked her out of the house or like she leaves voluntary. We never know. In my process, I did have like in the script, and I shot it as well, like a scene where the little girl actually reunites with the woman very briefly, and they had like a like very like long extended conversation that kind of like gives that closure. But like in the end, I felt like that scene did not quite fit in the film, so I decided to not have it in the final cut. And I think it's more beautiful that way, because like the part of like growing up and coming of age is like learning how to deal with like those things like by yourself and depend on yourself to find that emotional closure. So it's just a little thought that hearing your question, like like my mind is going that way, that direction.
Okay, thank you both. How did you both go about your casting processes? Both of you have really good child performances. I wanted to commend them both for what they do. And of course, they're nothing without the adults as well. So of course we have to mention them. But so I would like to know, how did you both go about your casting processes for your respective films?
Well, I I came up with the idea to do this short film within a week. Bought a ticket back to Vietnam and didn't know anyone, and was like finishing the script on the plane, landed in Vietnam, and then just dove right into it. And had 2 weeks to complete production, start to finish, including like pre-production, like casting and locations, everything. And remember, this is the first time I've been back to Vietnam after 20 years of being away. So I was, I guess the short answer to your question is I have no idea how I did it or how it happened. But basically, a family relative worked in the industry in Vietnam and hooked me up with a commercial casting agency, and then I just told him roughly the kind of characters I'm looking for, and then within the weekend he presented me with a bunch of options, and I was able to pick out the little kid in my film, and I'm really glad and grateful that you think he did a great job. I think he did a
Just
great job.
just a follow up. The casting agency was Vietnam based.
Yes, this is a Vietnam-based agency. Everyone who worked on this was Vietnam-based, apart from myself. Yeah.
Leo, before I asked Hung, did any of those actors have any professional acting experience before your film?
Yes, they had professional acting experience as far as commercials go, but they weren't. I don't think they had any sort of narrative storytelling experience before this. It was mostly just like, like the film industry in Vietnam, the commercial is a huge scene. So yeah, yeah. No, I think I just got really lucky, and it just fell into place. And my background is in stunts, so I remember the first day meeting the little boy who was gonna play like the stand-in for my character, for who I was as a kid. I just started doing fight scenes with him to break the ice. So I think that was one way for me to gain his trust. So
Okay, thank you, Leo. Hung, how was the casting process for your film?
Well, I did have a little more time to like prepare for this film. Similarly, I was how to say like writing and prepping for the film like from afar. I was in the States then, completing my master's degree, and this was my thesis project. and I only had like I knew I only had this time frame to shoot and to complete it, but I did have like more time to prep from a distance. And luckily, I also had the help of my crew from Vietnam, including my very experienced producer, Nguyễn Mai Ca, and she has a very great knowledge of the pool of actors in Saigon, as well as I also have the recommendations from friends. And actually, the little girl in my frame is a recommendation from the actor who played the mother in the film, Hoàng Trần Minh Đức, and she herself is a director and producer and a casting director. So it's really her expertise. And I share with her about my project, and she just gave me the recommendation about that Jai actor. I think I met like maybe 7 Jai actors, and only Jury Quỳnh Lâm, the one who starred in the film, gave me the feeling like, oh, this is the one, this is the girl. And then some other cast members are more, how to say, the most well-known actor in my cast is probably Ngô Quang Tuấn, the actor who played the father, and he's a very well-known actor in Vietnam, but he played a somewhat smaller role in the film, which is the father. But for me, that is an important role as well, and he was like really great and professional, even if it's like a small role and like presence. He was like very professional and very like dedicated to it. So I'm just glad that I'm just I felt lucky that I got to meet every one of my cast and got to work with them in this project.
Thank you, Hung. Actually, I'm going to follow up on one little thing before I move on to the next question for both of you. Hung, did I hear correctly that you said that was your thesis film for, I believe you were from the University of Texas at Austin, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. So when we think of student films in the United States, we think that the thesis films are largely shot in and around wherever the institution is. If it's like the American Film Institute, they're going to shoot it in Southern California. If it's like NYU, they're going to shoot it around New York. You did not shoot around Texas, it seems like. So how did that work?
Yeah, well, I did shoot in Texas for my previous projects in the program, but for this thesis, which is something that I have thought about for like a long time, for like uh, 5 or 6 years before I actually got to shoot it. So it's kind of like the project that I have always dreamt about, and it has always been set in Saigon. But also my program, the MFA program at UT, it's a very international program. Like half the program are like international students from like all around the world, and it's not super. It's not rare that people want to shoot their thesis in their home country. So like a lot of their thesis projects are like international projects, like shot outside the states. And I love that their faculty in our program are very supportive when it comes to that. But yeah, like it's very natural and organic to me to like shoot this film in Vietnam, in Saigon, where it, like where I got the inspiration from. Somebody did say that maybe I should just like adapt the film to the U.S. setting to like like make it in a more like convenient and way and save money, but like that did not feel right to me.
Okay, thank you both. I think strokes of good fortune and good directing marked both of your films and how the cast performed, and again, wonderful cast, wonderful performances both. How did you both grow as filmmakers and as a person while you made your respective works? Beginning with Leo.
Well, my one of my core belief is that your story is the greatest gift you have for the world, and it was very nice to be able to put that into practice. In my case, in such an, for me, like such an immediate and candid way. And I think it's probably the first time in my career that I was able to direct something that I felt that way. And then finishing the movie also gave me the courage to move back to Vietnam, um, in order to continue developing my feature film that I want to shoot there, instead of focusing all of my efforts on time on U.S. productions like I have been. So I think that's how I've grown as a filmmaker. Just become more courageous.
So, like I mentioned, my film is short autobiographical, just like Leo's film. So for me, it's a great opportunity to like revisit, childhood memories and like see it in a more like nuanced lens and um, learn a lot from like like reprocessing like certain things that had happened in my childhood and dramatize it in a in a dramatic structure. And yeah, it's like you learn a lot from that process, I guess. And this is by far my most ambitious film project as a director. And also it's my first time like coming back to Vietnam in 5 years to work on our no, by then that was my first time coming back to Vietnam in 3 years and work on our film set. And then I remember like the first morning after the ritual, right? In Vietnam, when you begin a like a film shoot, you do a little like offering ritual, and then suddenly I found myself in a like such a big crew, like 50 people, like are surrounding me, and like the set was like tiny, and I was like I have a moment where I like freak out a little bit, but you got like because you are the director, you are like responsible for like everything, and I learned how to like get over that quickly and carry on, and um like just like trying to like give it my best the whole shoot. And even that I felt like the post production was even more challenging, but like that's also another question. But since I mean, Leo, you mentioned that like you thought of this film or like your work as like a gift from yourself to the world. And for me, it's also it's somewhat like similar in that way, but it's also like my selfish side thinks of it as a gift I give for myself too. So when it's a gift like to for yourself, you try to like make it like the best you can at that given moment. Um, so yeah.
Okay, thank you both. I'm going to move into a round or two of individualized questions for the both of you. Again, beginning with Leo. Leo, your film is distinctly set in the 1990s. There's a certain aesthetic that I think some people associate with that time. Can you how did you achieve the grainy visual texture and the distinct lighting in your film to reflect the setting?
Hmm. Well, we watched a ton of 80s and 90s Jackie Chan movies, and a lot of times we try to watch them directly on a bulky CRT television in order to learn the look of the period or relearn the look of the period, right? Um, our cinematographer, Gu Tan Huang, he's based in Saigon. He actually owns manages an incredible coffee shop in Saigon. So you all should visit Bom Kia Sen if whenever you're in. I think it's like district, Bintan district. But what we did was we ended up pairing these vintage spherical lenses with a rear anamorphic adapter to get the post anamorphic look, and to be able to accomplish it on a budget. And it was really funky because the picture we captured was like super wide, hilariously wide, like much wider than 239:1. It had extreme vignetting, but we knew we were going to crop everything to 4:3 for the most part. So like we basically captured, I think, 5 times more than the picture that ended up being in the final film. And then yeah, I used some post processes to add more grain and emulate that 90s look that we love so much. So yeah, it was like a trial and error experimental process, and somehow it worked.
Was it the first time that you had tried something like that before in that style?
No, it's not the first time that I've tried something like that, but it's definitely the most successful, I think. And it helped that the locations that we got to shoot it just oozes that 90s retro feel in Saigon, you know. And like Hank mentioned earlier, like some friends in the US were like, why don't you adapt it and shoot it here just to make it uncomplicated? But then after they saw the movie, they were like, oh yeah, you could never have shot it in America. So they were glad it went back and attempted to do it in Vietnam and get that authentic 90s look in Vietnam.
It almost makes you want to wonder if there's the VHS tape of your film somewhere and you just slide it.
Right, maybe, yeah, right. I thought about that. I thought about transferring it to VHS and then, I don't know, just having that sitting around for fun. Maybe I still will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To Hung. So one of the things that bugs me, I think, a lot about modern filmmaking and television is when we see interiors and everything is way too clean. It obviously looks like a set, and it seems like that nobody has ever truly lived in that space. Your film is totally different, obviously. The apartments feel lived in. There's a certain griminess and all of that, and some of the details on the walls and the furniture. It feels like it's been worn a little bit. How did you figure out your production design, your set details, and even what sort of rooftop you wanted to have, and what sort of rooftop garden even you wanted to have, and did you want to use for your film?
Right. Thank you for the question. So the house, the main location in my film is it's an actual house where someone like lives in. So organically, it has that feeling, and it's also what I was like looking for. Because the same way I did not want to, like maybe rent an Airbnb and like redress it because like that's never gonna work, especially for my film. Um, but because of that, it took us like quite a while to figure out the house, and I basically based the house in the film on my own actual like childhood home. So what I did is I just like had a meeting with my production no location manager and basically described to him like this is the house that I was looking for, and it has to have like this and that, and like very specific requirements. And he did such a great job in finding the house that we ended up shooting in, and it's just like someone's house, so like what he did is probably he just like okay, the interior looks good. I'm just gonna go talk to this person who is the owner who lives here and see what they thinks about that. So it worked out for us. And the production design, I worked with Angela, or production designer who is also a director herself. So she really understands like filmmaking and like cinematic storytelling, and we share the sensibility, similar sensibility in the way that it eventually shows in the design in the room of the tenant and all the little details. So again, I just felt very lucky to have found like the right people who share their same sensibility and were so willing to like work together and bring our vision from a very abstract place to actuality to the screen. And the rooftop, um yeah
Yeah, because
actually like
you can't just have any rooftop, right? It has to look a
right,
certain way
right.
in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean like in the film it has like kind of like still it has how to say like my from my original vision, I have like kind of like adjusted a little bit to adapt to the house and the rooftop that we found. But basically, I want a rooftop where we can see, like the cityscape, and from this house you can see the neighbors' rooftops as well. Um, but yeah, like the challenging part is we we were like right next to like a like big busy street, so that gave our sound designer or sound recorder quite a headache. So like it has pros and cons. That's why people chose to shoot in a sound stage, I guess. But yeah, we really try to make that happen.
Okay, thank you, Han. I'm going to ask you for final group questions here. Two rather personal questions, I must admit. Leo, you mentioned that that the jump is partly a tribute to your grandmother. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think well, I know as Vietnamese, we all deal with a high level of, well, most of us I think deal with a high level of family, generational trauma, and like I have a lot of problems with my father and my mother and other members of my family, but I think my grandmother has always been that um, that sure place in my heart, and I think that came to be because I was um, like I was very young. I was a child, and like I was an only child, and like my grandmother stayed home with me and watched movies with me, and like we enjoyed on the Jackie Chan movies that inspired me to become who I am now together in the house while my parents were off at work, and I think and I was able to leave Vietnam when I was 17, and I didn't spend my adult life um, in any sort of anger or resentment to my grandmother that I know I did towards other members of my family. So I think this movie is a response to all of that. It's a very simplistic response to all of that, but I'm able to I think hone in on my grandmother as the the source of understanding and peace and kindness in my life, and I use that to create that narrative through line for the main character in the movie, to basically find his way. And I think hopefully you guys saw that in the scene where the kid and the grandma is in the middle, and then the dad comes to the foreground, and he's trying to have a talk with his kid, and the two of them have that moment, but it's really the grandmother in the back that's the most understanding of the entire situation.
When you said the word simplistic, I don't think you meant that in a dismissive way. I think you meant that in a we lived a simple life. We had a that's the word you used. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I no, I think I meant you were talking about how I said this movie is a simplistic
It's simplistic.
answer
Yes.
to those things. No, it just means that my movies, I think my work is very accessible. Like I'm actually not big into these heavy, dark, deep drama kind of stuff. Like I'm a stuntman. I love action. I love like like car chases and explosions, and that's the kind of movies I usually do in the U.S. And I feel like my career in the future is going to be a combination of personal dramatic stories like what I'm exploring here, but also I'm not gonna forget that I just want to make fun, entertaining movies as well. And that's what I mean by simplistic. Like I'm not trying to dive deep into like solve like these problems or understand like what happened. I just want to bring it up just a little bit, but keep it light and entertaining and hopeful.
Okay, I was wondering about your word choice. That was all.
Yeah.
But no, I understand. No, it's beautifully felt though. However you describe it as such, and I wanted to commend you for that tribute.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Han, another rather personal question. So, when you wrote your director's statement to Viet Film Fest, when you submitted to us, you ended it with a question to us, and we're gonna redirect that question right back at you right now. Who did? And I know you mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but could you elaborate more on this? Who did you meet as a child that left a lasting impact on you while you made the film? It doesn't necessarily have to be the analogs of the characters in your film for this answer.
I mean, when you submit your director's statement to a festival, like it's usually the short version, the condensed version, right? I have so many things to say about the film, but at the same time, I don't want to like boggle people and programmers and audience alike with like my intentions, but like just let them experience the film. But regarding your question, I mean, it's it's hard to say because we all live through like different like stages of life. Even like childhood like has like different stages, and each stage you have like certain like figures that like left an influence on you. But I think like since we're talking about my this film, this short film, and their tenant in the film was like someone who was very influential to me. That's why we have a whole film dedicated to her, sort of. And I mean, I did have a friendship with a woman who lived with us for quite a long period of time, like that. And it's a whole like saga, like where the film ends is like where she leaves the house, but like in actuality, like she lived with us like for longer than that, and like for like different periods, and then she later like came back to live with us with her newborn Joy. And like there's a whole saga about her, and our family's relationship with her is also very complex. And um, when I share this with my friends who have watched this short film and shared them with them about my intention to turn this into a feature, a lot of people were like, "Yeah, I want to watch that film." So it's what I'm working on right now, and hopefully we'll be able to make it in hopefully a couple years. But
Well,
yeah,
Yep.
just want to like explain a bit further why um, the relationship was very like influential to me, because it's like um, when you were a child, right? Like your mother is always like the first like example of womanhood and femininity. And so having the like like the aunties and the aunties, like whether like it's your mother's like sisters or like her friends, or like the the other women around you, are like almost like your like like second examples of femininity that are not your mother. um and also like my mom's friendship with this woman is like so complex. um like she always like despised the fact that this woman is her secret sex worker, but at the same time my mom like helps her a lot. And yeah, it's just, yeah. And like the whole time I was like always like wondering why you can be friend with someone you kind of like looks down upon. But it's not, I guess it's not like entirely that. So it's just something that I'm like like digging deeper to understand better.
Okay, thank you, Hong. So so we're going to move into group questions to close this out. This question is actually something I originally wrote just for Leo, but then of course it actually applies to both of you. So I was wondering, beginning with Leo, what was shooting in an urban Vietnamese environment like for you, the cast and the crew? What were the most difficult aspects of an urban shoot, and how did you overcome those difficulties?
Noisy. Saigon is so noisy. And I think Hank mentioned it earlier. Yeah, poor sound recorders, right? But I think they're so used to it that they just make the best of it, and they don't really complain. The most dramatic moments in my grandmother's house with the dad yelling at the son, and then like he's crying, and then they have to have that heart to heart moment. Of course, it started pouring rain outside, and it was super noisy, and we were running out of time and all of that, and we had like probably like 2 takes max. And so just that kind of unpredictable chaos of film sets, because it's such an uncontrolled environment shooting in Saigon, but I love it. I mean, I love that energy. I love the chaos. I always believe that mistakes makes the movies better if you're experienced and you know how to solve problems creatively and well. And this is why I hate AI, because it cannot replicate those human mistakes and how we solve them. But yeah, that's what shooting in an urban Vietnamese environment was like. I would say the most difficult aspect, actually, I'm gonna be completely honest and bring this up because I think it's really interesting, is dealing with some of my relatives, some of my extended family members, because they had problems with me shooting in my grandmother's house, because they were laying claim to ownership of the house, and they would say things like, why do you have to go and do this? The neighbors are going to complain, like, just shoot on your iPhone, like, why do you need a crew, like, the cops are going to show up, because everyone's going to call in, and like, you're going to give the family members a bad name and cause like a big fuss and all of that. And I think it's not the first time I've encountered that kind of attitude, but directly from my family members, from my relatives, was the first. And whenever I encounter people like that, I just think that well, they don't get it, but our efforts, like Hang and you and us, like what we're doing, are going to inspire their kids and their grandkids to live a life of joy and hope and art. So I just shut them out and keep doing what I'm doing.
Hong, difficulties shooting in an urban environment.
Well, apart from like the issues that Leo have already mentioned, I mean, shooting in an urban city like Saigon, sometimes like goes down to like little, like very little things. Like we have a scene where we have the cast like driving a motorbike, and the camera have to be like like tracking alongside their motorbike. And then in Vietnam, what we do is we just put our DP or camera operator on a motorbike and drive alongside the cast, which is what we will never do in the States. But here in Vietnam, we have a little more flexibility. The thing is, my DP is from the States, and he's like a big guy, and he's not used to that. So it's like something that we decided like very early on, that we're just gonna let the camera operator like do that, and he would just be like supervising like on the side. And then sometimes it's the like little things when you like shoot outside, you have to report to like the authorities, um and having like a foreign DP like sometimes could make it a little complicated. And I remember there was like this scene where we need to get to like the other side of the street to get a like a wide shot of the house. And it's funny because like the house is it's located in this ward that we have already talked to the authorities of that ward, but like across the street is like a different ward that we have not talked to. And like right at that moment, we needed to resolve that just to get that one shot from across the street. That is like a different authorities. But yeah, like little things like that. But like like at the end of the day, those are like kind of fun challenges that gave you like stories to talk about afterwards.
Thank you both. I'm going to do the final two questions very quickly here. So, may I ask you both what films or works of narrative art influenced you while making your films? Leo, I think the obvious answer here are the Jackie Chan films, including Police Story, but is there anything else you would like to add?
I was very influenced by Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, for how he went back to his hometown and replicated his childhood so verbatim, and you could just feel it. And I don't think my movie is anywhere near that level of accomplishment, but I feel that. I feel for that. I wanted to do a little bit of that, just at least have the same level of boldness and courage, and just going and to just recreate my childhood verbatim like that. So I think Alfonso Cuarón is a huge inspiration in my journey.
Hong?
Yeah, a lot of people brought up the work of French director Celine as a like reference point when I presented the project during development and pre-production. I honestly did not like actively think of her work as a references for myself for this film, but I really love her work a lot. And interestingly, I read this comment from an audience on Letterboxd after watching my film. They made a comment that at first the short film like made me think about water lilies, but then I was like, oh, maybe it's not. Oh, but maybe it is. But anyway, they mentioned water lilies by Celine Sciamma, which for me felt like a compliment, I guess, to being compared to such a great director. But yeah, love her work.
Okay, and then for our final question, do you both have any future projects you would like our audience to know about? Leo, lead us out.
Sure thing. Well, I'm preparing to shoot my feature film in Vietnam. It's called The Legend of Saigon. It's totally similar to The Jump, as far as it is a coming of age story, and it deals with how we overcome family trauma. But unlike The Jump, it's going to star a female high schooler, and it's going to dive into full-on 80s martial arts action, and everything's going to be motivated by magical realism, fantasy elements. So action, fantasy, epic adventure, combined with the drama that you just saw in The Jump.
I'm working on several projects, but one of them is the feature version of Rooftop Limpica, where it will be my opportunity to explore all these like dynamics and relationships and nuances in a more like deeper level, including the mother character, because um, in the short film, like she plays a maybe less important part, but like in the feature, in my vision for the feature, she will be like a more important like figure in the future, and it's almost about like the triangle between the little girl, her mother, and the tenant. Will be more about that. And another project I'm working on is called Summer 1999, which is coming of age slash thriller set in Vietnam in 1999 in a kind of like a remote area revolving teenage soccer players. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, and that is the end of our Q&A for the Fairest Trees Are Grown Solid Ground. We have a few absent filmmakers I wanted to note here for the films Banoi, From a Distance, Reconnection, and We're Only Strangers. If you specifically wanted to see the filmmakers of From a Distance in a Q&A, you're in luck because they recorded the Q&A for their film, for the short film set, Remember My Forgotten Man. So I do encourage you to take a look at that short film set if you have time. But for now, Leo K. Angeles, Nguyen Long Hang from Southern California and from Vietnam, thank you for joining us today. And I wanted to note that Ann Lei was our technical support, and Viet Film Fest 2025 runs through Sunday, October the 19th virtually. So if you haven't, we have some important calls to take after this is done. But if you haven't, please take a look at the remainder of the films we have on our virtual platform, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, VFF.
Great meeting you, Hang.